This was a mural for the new Twin Cities Pride Cultural Arts Center. So I will be talking about the entire process from how I was hired to project specs, the painting process, and challenges, etc. Not scripted, whatever. Okay, I'll have to say that better for the video, but that's what this is. How I got this opportunity. I was interviewing for the Artist in Residence program. During the interview, I was talking about my artwork and future art goals, and I talked about how I wanted to do bigger paintings and like bigger projects. So they mentioned that they had this RFP for this mural, a request for proposals. They said it seemed like something I'd be interested in. The overview, or I guess the RFP, was to design and create a mural celebrating the vibrant culture of the LGBTQ plus community. The specs, it's an 11 by 20 foot brick wall. There is a $1,000 stipend, and they also ended up covering the cost of materials. So I submitted an application. What I submitted was a proposal, description, sketch, a portfolio, a resume, and a project timeline, and also links to my website and my Instagram. I'm going to read a tiny bit of the description. My vision for the mural is a cosmic fantasy landscape that depicts an astronaut floating amidst a collection of planets and celestial bodies inspired by the color palettes of pride flags. Taking a small step or giant leap into a new community can be intimidating, but also exciting. Interstellar travel is often associated with exploration, discovery, and new opportunities. This mural is a welcoming, inspiring, and inclusive visual statement representing the journey we've all made or are trying to make to explore and become a part of our LGBTQ plus community. And then I also described like the general art style and color palette. The portfolio was just 5 pictures. 3 of the pictures were from another mural I did, and then I submitted a couple pictures from another project that had the same art style I was going for. Okay, so then planning. This is a section about planning. How I got my sketch onto the wall. I spent a lot of time refining the sketch. So this is a sketch I submitted, and so you could probably see it's like the background is like very similar to what the final thing ended up being. Well, the astronaut was the thing that I had to spend a lot of time to finish, and then I came up with more unique designs for most of the planets, so they weren't all just like the pride flag stripes, which was a bit repetitive. Here's some pictures for inspiration. I really liked how swirly the rainbow was with this astronaut kind of floating in the center. Here's another one. I'm not the first person to ever do like pride planets, but what I tried to do differently is I didn't want every planet to just like be the stripes. I wanted my version to have a different kind of personality. I don't know what this is, but this was another inspiration for the rainbow strand. And then my costume was a little bit different, but I took inspiration from the Martian for the astronaut costume. It's very different. It's not a direct copy of his costume, but it's a little secret. So it was basically the Martian plus this, plus this. Okay, so once I had the final art, of which I probably spent way too much time just fiddling around with details, I originally planned on using a projector to get my sketch onto the wall, but because of the scale of the wall and because of how bright it was outside during the day, which is when I went to work on this, I didn't think that would work. So what I did, I found a picture of the wall, did some editing in Photoshop with perspective warp to make it as flat as possible. I overlaid my artwork on top of that and then superimposed the brick pattern on top. And then I had my own version of a grid. But this mock-up was also really cool because I could see where the railing would block pieces of my artwork. So I ended up moving some planets around so that they wouldn't be directly behind any of these posts. I printed it out, divided it onto 6 pieces of paper. One issue I had was that my spaceman, ended up going across 4 seams of the pages. So I ended up reprinting this section onto one piece of paper, and it was easier to reference. And that was the only issue I had with this paper grid strat, but not an issue because I just printed that section again. I put pieces of tape where I had the numbers or the letters on my sketch. The pieces of tape and the letters and the numbers gave me some landmarks. Otherwise, I would have had to keep counting. Like, this section is 5 bricks from the top or whatever. And that helped me not have to keep doing that. I used string to help me make circles, and I felt smart for having figured that out. I couldn't figure out a way to use strings to make the ellipses, and most of my ellipses looked wonky. I ended up using tape to map out lines, and that was a good solution. Most of the lines I used a tiny like art brush. I used like a real painter brush, like the 1.5 or 2 inch paintbrush. But those brushes hurt my arms. They hurt my wrists so bad. I used them for like 20 minutes and then my arms hurt. I used tiny paintbrushes the rest of the time. I did a lot of research about what kind of paint to use for murals that would look nice but not be crazy expensive. I figured out that eggshell wall paint was the best way to do that. So I went to a local paint shop to get swatches for colors. I didn't get the swatches I needed, so I also looked online. I grabbed screenshots of the colors and I put them like in my art to make sure that the colors would be good. So these cups are like 8-ounce half pint samples, like paint samples. Normally they cost $6 a cup, but they had a sale for 50% off, up to 10 samples. So that was a good deal. Okay, so I bought 10 samples, and then I bought a quart of white paint, and then a gallon of dark purple paint for the background, and I used the entire can. I had to mix 5 colors. So we'll see, I mixed the dark plum purple from the background color plus pink plus red. I had to mix a light green color from the green, and I mixed this light pink color from the pink. I had to mix 2 grays for the astronaut. Also, fun fact, I don't remember exactly what color, but the grays were not pure white plus black. I think I mixed some sort of purple in with them too. That's a color theory pro tip. Oh, so I used Benjamin Moore, hashtag not sponsored, which Benjamin Moore, actually a fun fact, you can order this paint online and then go to a local store to pick it up, which was very cool. I didn't have to like talk to anyone to like buy the paint. They had all my paint ready for me when I went to go pick it up. It was a very good customer experience. I used 2 coats of paint for most of the area when I was painting the color on white, and then areas that I had to paint over my sketch or over other colors, it probably took 3 to 4 coats of paint, which was annoying, but these paints look very good in person. All of my paint was about like $140, and then other expenses probably got me close to maybe $200 of expenses. Paint was the biggest expense, but it was worth it. I spent about 9 days of painting, and that was probably about 7 to 8 hours of painting a day for 9 days. Okay, the filming process, I had like 10 hours of footage across 9 days of painting. You're seeing the best parts. I really hated filming this project. I hate filming, but I like being able to look back at the process. Unstoppable Force is me hating filming, but Immovable Object is my obsession with watching myself work on projects. Okay, here, I have 2 reasons I hated filming. Having to like paint and then think about the best parts to film, I think is really annoying. Normally, like when I do my painting streams or whatever, I just record the whole process and then I don't have to think about filming. But I spent like 80 hours on this project. There is no way I could have filmed all of it. Also, I mean, I wouldn't want to, that's so much. And then anytime I was up on the ladder while filming, I had to set up the camera and like start recording it. I had to climb up the ladder and then like do painting and then get down the ladder to stop the camera. And then I'd have to climb back up the ladder to keep painting. And so I didn't record a lot of stuff while I was up on the ladder, because recording stuff when I was painting up on the ladder meant going up and down the ladder like 4 times, as many times as I needed to. I filmed more at the beginning of the project when I was young and full of energy. I was painting like all day. I color corrected the footage a little bit, but I think it's interesting to see when it gets dark in the video, because I think it starts getting dark around like 3 or 4 in the afternoon here. And then it was like this dark at 6, which is when I stopped painting most days. I wanted to say, I think it's funny for my video to have a day-night cycle. That's the joke for this section. What else? I used 2 tripods. There's a tripod that I used for most of the video. And then I had like 1 tripod in the same spot for this wide shot. Which I liked this wide shot. I don't know, it's a good like benchmark for progress. Okay, what else? Oh, I wanted to mention that the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule is that you can do 80% of the work in 20% of the time. I filmed a lot the first 2 days because I went from a blank wall, day 1, to basically a line art drawing at the end of day 2. It's easier to film when there's more visible progress. And so like the first 2 days was, I went from a blank wall to like the mural was almost done and I just had to color it in. But the coloring in part and the finishing part took, 7 more days of work. So by the time I got to the end, I wasn't filming as much because progress was slower. Okay, next section of the video is challenges. In no particular order, here's a list of grievances and complaints about working on this project. I wish I could have gotten more footage of me high up on the wall. Obviously, I had permission to film, but I couldn't really get my tripod high enough to see the stuff, and I couldn't get my tripod in certain spots because it would have been in the way of people coming in and out of the building. This mural was literally at the entrance of this building, so I had to work around people, and I wasn't able to film as much the last couple of days because there were events going on and such. Although people would usually give compliments as they walked by, I was the troll blocking their passage, and my payment for moving was a compliment. Complaint number 2. Painting for 8 hours straight for basically 2 weeks was really hard. It was a half an hour drive there, and I would paint from like around 10 in the morning to around 5 or 6 p.m. I took a lunch break and a couple snack breaks, but painting all day is like really exhausting. I'd drive there, paint, come home, and then I would just be tired. Like I'd sit and like watch TV for the night. I can only imagine how Michelangelo felt painting the Sistine Chapel. So I was tired. I was also stressed the entire time I was working. Painting outside of your normal environment doubles or triples the exhaustion. It's one thing to like sit and like be at your computer and like paint and have a good time, and it's another thing to, it's a nice building, but it's a strange environment. Like I was uncomfortable the entire time. The other big complaint is that when I worked on this mural, I was trying to work as fast as I could. I don't know if this is a skill issue or each day went by so quickly, and the amount of hours I spent on this project felt high. And the longer I spent working on this project, the more my hourly rate got smaller. So I was like stressed about working fast. Okay, the final complaint is that the texture of the brick was really annoying to paint on, which I think is the main reason it took me so long. The texture of the brick was annoying and time consuming to paint because I couldn't just paint any area. I had to paint every area like 5 times. But that being said, I do think the texture of the brick is really interesting, and it gives the artwork a really interesting effect. There are areas where simultaneously you don't really see the brick pattern, but also the brick adds a lot of texture and interest to the wall. I mean, it's one thing to like make the artwork for this wall, but it's another thing to see it on a real physical wall. I think the brick is weirdly grounding. Despite all the imperfections that happened because of the way that the wall is, it somehow looks better than the digital artwork because it's just so real. There are so many things I could complain about this wall, but I'm very proud of this wall, this mural. I'm not proud of the wall. I'm proud of the mural. It's my first public mural and the first real time that my work has been displayed in public. This is the biggest that my artwork has been. This project was very much outside my comfort zone. As I was talking about this a little bit, but I was anxious the entire time I was working on this, but I think it was worth it. I'm very proud of it. I think it has gone beyond what I've done before. I've had some good reactions to the wall, to the mural. I've enjoyed seeing people reacting to it. It's interesting that the mural, you see it right when you walk into the building. So it's interesting to see people, they walk through the door and then they just like stop and they just look at the wall. Okay, here's the conclusion that I wrote up. Even though this project was really challenging, I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I feel like I gave it my all. This is the kind of project where I really get to flex my skills as a designer plus illustrator plus painter. I was able to design this artwork for this specific space. My art style, my work isn't usually very conceptual or stylized. I usually do a lot of fairly realistic portraits or impressionistic landscapes, but I'm very proud of the art style from this illustration. And I really enjoy the planet design. Each planet has a personality. And then like as a painter, physically installing this giant painting is not perfect. Nothing is, but I think I did a pretty good job. Okay, end of the video.